Vote buying and sharing of food characterized special voting at some centers, with some voters taking pictures in breach of the law. A special prosecutor is set to look into the matters. Also this morning, Electoral Commission of Ghana backtracks on its earlier restrictions of media accreditations. Also coming up, Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana urges government to sustain growth and prioritize stability post-2024 elections. We have details of these and many more coming up shortly. Please do stick and stay. And indeed, we are your election command center. Now, the special prosecutor is set to look into some matters that characterized the special voting yesterday. This follows the impersonation of an immigration officer by a voter in the Ablekuma Central constituency. Another electoral offense was recorded with a security officer caught taking photos of his ballot in the booth. Christian Yali has a wrap.
The incident at Ablekuma Central was not an isolated case during the special voting. TV3 has intercepted social media posts in which people breached the secrecy of their ballot, raising questions about the integrity of the electoral process. At Ablekuma Central, an officer was forced to delete images he took after voting, but he was not arrested.
When they checked, they realized that somebody has used my name to cast his vote, which is very bad. So I raised the alarm that, no, that's not me.
In another incident, a voter impersonated an immigration officer.
I used my thumbprint for the machine to verify it, but it rejected my fingerprints, and they used the facial camera to catch to take the picture of my face, but I don't want to decline my face, so they have to do the manual verification for me, which is very bad.
Both parliamentary candidates for the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress are hopeful the 2020 electoral violence won't be repeated this year.
There is some cooperation between all the political parties, ensuring that we have a very smooth and successful, special, voters exercise.
You will help in making sure that the chaos that we experience the 2020 should not happen. And as an MP, I am assuring you that we will put mechanisms in place.
It was a peaceful process at Ablekuma West as well, but the NDC parliamentary candidate has a concern. He wants the Electoral Commission to be a little more customer-centric, such that those who come here and may not know their way around would be guided as to how to vote.
EC should be a little bit up to more customer service oriented, in the sense that, I'm coming to vote, I don't know what's going on. At least there should be people who will be able to direct people to what to do. I've seen people move from the presidential to the parliamentary and even one or two people at the point had to put their ballot in the presidential box.
The special voting may have ended, but the electoral process continues with the main elections expected on Saturday. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Ablekuma West.
We'll stay on the same matter, and from the Ashanti region, Ibrahim Abubakar reports that the voting exercise was conducted devoid of any major challenges.
20,486 voters in the Ashanti region registered to participate in the special voting exercise. Voting in most of the 47 constituencies started on time, but commenced 4 hours late in Offensu North constituency. Other materials arrived at the Akumadan Methodist GHS polling station early, with the exception of the voters' register. It took almost 4 hours to bring the register to the polling center for voting to begin, and it started around 11 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. At Bantima, there was a near confrontation when the MPP members told the NDC members without accreditation to leave the voting arena. Asawasi was, however, peaceful throughout the exercise. Out of the 494 eligible voters expected to cast their ballots, 418 participated in the special voting. Both the NDC and MPP parliamentary candidates for Asawasi are confident of winning on December 7.
Thank God it's been so peaceful. Our prayer is that it continues that way throughout, even on the main day, without any hiccups. Now what we are saying, we want to teach people real lessons. I mean, by perform better than we did in 2020. That is our hope.
The meter is going to reach 0 for both of us, right? So I am winning it. I don't want to talk much about it, but the NDC understands that they've served their tenure, the 20 years, and the people have been very thankful to them for their stewardship. They want to see something different. They want to face a new direction, and then so that they will be able to adequately measure going forward.
Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Kumasi.
Now, over 130,000 registered voters were expected to cast their votes in the special voting ahead of the main December 7 general elections. The exercise, as we have covered by your Election Command Center, was generally peaceful, but not without isolated incidents worth talking about. Now, let me run you through some of these incidents that were recorded across the country. We saw that many of these incidents happened in some special voting centers. Also, we saw in Ablekuma Central that the police officer was caught with pictures of the ballot. The action taken there was that he was made to delete and let to go free. Another incident was about an immigration officer that had his biometric details used by another person to vote before he arrived. He was manually verified and made to vote. Also in Ayawaso West Wogan, there were some incidents there. The incumbent MP was captured distributing food to voters in a queue. The OSP is launching an investigation into the action despite the MP's denial. We also saw that some voters attempted to take photographs of their ballots. The voters have been arrested by the Ghana Police Service for investigation. Of course, it raises issues about why in Ablekuma Central, the person who took the photograph has not been arrested. We recorded in Ayawaso Central that the NDC was raising concerns about special voters allegedly taking pictures of ballot papers after voting. The issue has been reported to the Ghana Police Service for investigations. Also in Korle Klote, 2 voters couldn't find their names on voters' lists, although they were designated to vote at the set center. The voters were turned. Issue being investigated by the Electoral Commission. Yes, that's what's happening for that matter in Sagnariku. There was a video captured of the financial secretary of the MPP allegedly attempting to induce a voter with money. The video has been handed over to the Ghana Police Service for further investigation. Also in Nandom, a prisons officer reportedly took pictures of ballots after voting. He was arrested by the security personnel at the voting center. In Bimbila, an Electoral Commission officer who voted there reportedly took pictures of the ballot after voting. The said officer has also been arrested by the police for further investigation. Also in Waliwale, a security officer with the Ghana National Fire Service was caught photographing his ballot paper. He has also been arrested and placed in police custody. So basically, you saw most of the issues that were reported, most of them having to do with persons capturing or taking pictures of their ballot papers. And this has raised a lot of concerns, really, about why some of them have been arrested and others have not. Well, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has warned that any attempt to willfully falsify vote counts or make false returns of election results would be met with strict legal action. The statement urged all personnel involved in vote counting, collation and the transmission of election results to perform their duties with the utmost honesty. Let's look at some excerpts of the statement released by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Now, the OSP is admonishing all officers charged with the counting of votes at the polling stations, collation centers, and the transmission of and publication of the outcome of the elections that it is a grave offense to willfully falsify the account of voters or votes or make a false return of the votes. He also says that he is reminding the public that the law prohibits corrupt acts in relation to the elections. It is a serious offense to engage in vote buying, vote selling, intimidation, threats of violence, acts of violence, or impersonation of a voter or an electoral officer. Of course, this is your election command center. We'll bring you more graphics of what the OSP has been saying with regards to some of the incidents that were recorded in many other constituencies. We saw incidents of vote buying. We also saw incidents of persons taking pictures of their ballot papers, which, of course, is not allowed, is against the law. The OSP has said many more things. We're going to take you through that as well. Basically, he is saying that from Saturday, December 2024, media persons can access constituency and regional collation centers using their photo accreditation cards used by the EC. Now, this really is not about what the OSP has said. Basically, the Electoral Commission has announced that media persons assigned photo accreditations to cover polling stations will be allowed to use same in the collation centers. Earlier, the electoral body restricted access to a few media houses, but reversed their decision after the directive came under scrutiny. We're getting back into the statement. The EC is desirous to maintain the highest level of transparency and accountability in its operations. The revised media accreditation aims to provide media personnel with greater flexibility and access to key election centers. This commitment is to ensure that the media can effectively cover the electoral process, and this change reflects that commitment. Of course, this is what the EC is saying. It also says arrangements for media access to the National Collation Center will be announced in due course. And so this is signed by the Electoral Commission, the Director for Electoral Votes or Electoral Services, Benjamin Banu Bio, regards to the revised media accreditation for constituency and regional collation centers. Well, on to some more stories. The Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GIBA, has welcomed EC's decision to reverse its earlier directive to restrict media access to constituency and regional collation centers. President of GIBA, Thomas Sunkwa Mills, wants extensive consultation with stakeholders in such decisions.
Actually not going to work with that proposal at all. The 4,500, I think, earlier on, the DJ president did mention, the EC actually have asked, and we are returning that 4,500. So now for polling, for all accredited media people for the polling stations, they would the accreditation they have for the polling stations will be the same accreditation which will be used for the collation centers. So we're going to work with just one accreditation. And there's one point that I just need to make clear, that, you know, the whole aim of this accreditation was to identify specific media that are coming from definite houses, recognizable media that were going to cover the election. So that was the whole essence of the accreditation, so that we know who actually is going to cover and the credible stations. So the moment you start going out and using accreditation to do selective media representation, then that becomes a challenge, even to the Constitution. So once we've done the accreditation, The stations actually did bring their own applications. Some ran through GIBA, some Prempag also brought theirs. Also, media practitioners also gave the same to the GJA. So now with them bringing that and we having gotten the accreditations done with the EC, it has not been selective. So that accreditation is what is going to be used and is valid for both work at the polling stations and then also for the collation centers. So that accreditation is what we use throughout. There will be no other accreditation which will be given to any media house or any journalists who have been accredited. So your polling, the one you have for the polling stations will be the same throughout the election, which is simple.
We stay on elections, and the National Election Security Task Force has announced that it will adopt a zero-tolerance policy towards firearms at any polling station. While hosting the Commonwealth Observer Mission in Ghana ahead of December 7 polls, Chairman of the Election Security Task Force, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, stated that the police will be swift, fair and firm in its security arrangements at the polling stations. Here's a report by Stanley Niblo.
The National Election Security Task Force, led by Inspector General of Police Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, hosted 2 delegations on Monday morning. The first delegation was the Commonwealth Observer Mission, which is in the country to observe the electoral process. The delegation, led by the immediate past president of Botswana, Mogwetsi Masisi, will be in the country until December 13, 2024.
As is the habit of the Commonwealth, in consonance of its commitment to democratic dispensation, one of the tools the Commonwealth has chosen to use in order to verify and give validity, credibility to a process is to observe elections based on standards established and standards by which countries have agreed to subscribe to. And so we come here as humble servants of the Commonwealth to come and help our fellow Commonwealth country, Ghana, realize its ambition and goals of going through an election process which ought to yield a government.
Chairman of the National Election Security Task Force, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, insisted that the police are confident in the measures taken so far to protect both the ballot and the peace of the country.
The assurance to all the political parties and the candidate is simple. We will be firm, we will be fair, we will be very professional, and making sure that as they have been commending us in recent times in terms of how we have done it, we value that commendation and want to keep it. So we want to be consistent.
Director General in charge of Police Administration, COP Paul Manley Awuni, stated that no firearms will be allowed at any polling station.
The officers who have been deployed at the polling stations are there they are not armed. We also have a zero tolerance for firearms at the polling station. Zero tolerance as part of the strategic plan. They are there with their bare hands, and the only weapon they have is their word of mouth, engagement. But when the issue gets to a point where they cannot handle it, then they now call the rapid response team. Very short period. When they are called, they'll be there.
The National Election Security Task Force also received a delegation involving the leadership of private security companies. The engagement was aimed at informing the Private Security Association not to interfere in the electoral process. On Saturday, December 7, over 80 million registered Ghanaians will head to the polls to elect a president and 276 members of parliament. Stanley Niblo, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana, Ambassador Dayo Adeoye, has called on Nigerians living in Ghana to remain calm and peaceful as the country approaches its general elections on December 7. He urged Ghanaians to vote peacefully and advised those who are not eligible to vote to stay at home.
Over 18 million registered voters in Ghana are expected to cast their ballots on December 7, with special voting scheduled for Monday, December 2 in 14 regions. However, the eastern and western regions will hold their special voting on Thursday, December 5. As Ghanaians prepare to go to the polls, the Nigerian High Commissioner to Ghana, Ambassador Dayo Adeoye, is urging Ghanaians to maintain the country's peace.
For Nigerians that are in Ghana, my advice to them during the election is for them to comport themselves, to live peacefully among them. If there are any of them that are Nigerian, Ghanaian citizens, they have voting rights, I advise them to go and vote. But those that are not eligible to vote for that December 7th, they should keep at home, maintain peace.
The president of the All-Nigerian community in Ghana, Dr. Bayo Albert Asaolu, also called on Ghanaians to ensure peaceful elections.
As we are all about to witness another election in Ghana, we want all of us to stand out by not participating to avoid crisis. And I will call on our Ghanaian friends to embrace peace so Ghana can still maintain an enviable record of versatile in quality election process in the continent of Africa.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian government is set to provide identity cards to Nigerians living in Ghana. The cards, he says, will offer various benefits and aim to support the Nigerian community in Ghana.
Let's head to Parliament now, and Speaker of Parliament has served notice that the Parliament will reconvene on Monday, December 16, after the general elections to enable the House wrap up on its 7th meeting of the 4th session. Now, the Speaker, in the notice pursuant to Order 58 of the Standing Orders of Parliament of Ghana, noted that the meeting will take place at 10 a.m, but the location will be appointed by the Speaker in due course. Leader of the MPP side in the House, Alexander Marking, had earlier asked for the Parliament to be reconvened to enable them to address critical state matters and conduct government business. But in response, the Speaker had stated that he could only recall the House after the 7th December elections. Now, the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana, ISEG, has outlined its expectations for government post-2024 elections.
Expectations of the incoming economic regime would be for a sustainable growth, which should be an accelerated growth as well as inclusive, which will create more jobs in the economy. We're also expecting a regime that would be focusing on stabilizing our inflation and bringing the inflation to the targeted band of 8 plus 2 or minus 2.
ISEG expects tax rebates for individuals and businesses by the new government to spur demand and growth.
Stabilize our foreign exchange and make sure that our foreign reserves are also in good shape. That will take care of our external sector. An economic regime that will not burden so much of the people with taxes. Of course, we would expect an administration that would also give more tax rebates to businesses and households as well as individuals.
By prioritizing these key areas, the Institute of Chartered Economists Ghana believes that the incoming government can build upon the foundation laid by its predecessor and drive sustainable economic growth.
And that's all for the 6 a.m. news right here on TV3. Remember, we're your election command center. My name is Judith Brown. We'll go for a short break. We'll be back with the rest of New Day. Do stay tuned.
Muhammad once said, Have you been offered a bribe before?
As a human being?
As a person?
Any human being in the world would have encountered, corruption in a way, one way or the other.
Dadanoa. On December 7th, vote for integrity, competency, and development. Esuro.
How do I look?
You look so gorgeous, Auntie.
Thank you. I hope my date feels the same. Am I not forgetting something?
Yes, obviously. Laura Mimi.
Thank you.
Can I use the washroom, please?
Sure. Flora disposable handkerchief.